There's no better movie reference for Cutthroat other than The Shining, and the fact that they actually fully committed to the Here's Johnny scene to give us Here's Cutthroat brings a giant grin to my face. This was one of my personal favorite Akudama Drive episodes, and honestly, this was probably my most anticipated movie reference, as every episode is titled after a famous movie and they tie into that movie in some capacity. This was the best one. Cutthroat's been the most oddball character who his so-called love for someone like Swindler was clearly, it was going to end in bloodshed in some way. It was just a matter of, did he love her so much that he would kill her enemies, or does he love her so much that he would kill her? And they went with the most obvious but probably best route for a character like Cutthroat. He went psycho, and in a world where you have brother and sister who can basically heal themselves even after getting ripped or torn apart, it makes sense that you could have a psychopathic killer who has such bloodlust in his eyes that he can follow a trail across the entire country if he needs to find his angel who has this halo that he's searching for. And it is completely twisted and tormented, but this was such an exhilarating episode. Honestly, even before the whole Cutthroat stuff with Doctor, and we had obviously Hoodlum, the executioner side, I was really into this episode even before all the insanity. They didn't even need to have a movie reference, they didn't even need to have craziness. It was just a really engaging episode to see how the city is kind of revolting and trying to take actions into their own hands because the Akudama, these S tiers, are all over their streets and seemingly the executioners are doing jack shit to do anything about it. You see in the TV programs, they're starting out being like, oh, there's some bad people, we couldn't really be on TV, we're apologizing. And then eventually they get into the broadcast where after it gets cut off once, it gets cut off again saying those in power pretty much, we shouldn't trust them, and then they get cut off. I wouldn't be surprised if episode 10 we're looking at new puppets because the old one had an accident or something and they teach the children that you should not disobey your elders or something. The Shining stuff though, I thought was amazing because what they did really interestingly with the visual direction is usually with like psychopathic scenes, it's a lot of red tints and darkness, which you do get to see from Cutthroat's perspective he looks like he sees in black and white and all he sees is this red aura that's basically his kill that he's trying to chase. We're in this situation where it's this blue filter, this blue tint, as you see a mountain of bodies made into a birthday cake for her as he tries to kill her, and it's completely demented and psychopathic. I mean, this character you never really trusted as far as you could throw him, but at the same time, you felt like there was a point where he would do anything to protect her. But this is his point of no return. The fact that he sees her as this angel that needs to be killed, and you knew this dude was going to die. There was no way Swindler was going to die in this episode. It was pretty obvious the fact that she would at least make it to the end stage where brother and sister would reunite. Does she survive past that? It's hard to say. But it's interesting to see just what they were able to do with this reference, and you knew they were going to build up to that classic breaking down the door scene, his face peering in, but they did it really well because Swindler's the type of character who has blended in with these crazy Akudama quite well, and this is the first time in a very, very long time that she's felt very hopeless, like she's an ordinary citizen again, that she's this ordinary person. And her cowering in the bathroom and just trying to get the hell out of there did feel very believable and realistic. And before all this was happening, like you see Courier saying, I have a job to do, and he's taking sister away. I actually thought he was about to betray Swindler and just get the hell out of Dodge, go somewhere else. I thought that's what they were building up to. So to actually see him come back and say, it's my job to deliver you because they were pretty much hiring him to do so. It's nice to see that there is some companionship there that's still alive and kicking despite the group pretty much falling apart. There's just a lot of insanity. There's a lot of craziness, and it just felt so entertaining. And rather than it feeling like just a random movie reference, it ties into the character so well that it's both a really fun movie reference, but even if you don't get the reference, it still serves as Akudama Drive episode 9, and that's a really important note to make sure you understand. Like, there's so many times you get references that are just there to be references, and if it's a comedy series, it works fine, but we're in a pretty serious story, all things considered. So the fact that they can use these as both a fun reference but also serve as really good characterization for a psychopathic killer, this is exactly what you want to see. The whole stuff with Hoodlum and Doctor though, I mean, you knew they were getting into bed based on the preview, but he stuck his dick into Crazy, and Crazy somehow didn't kill him. But it's interesting because this man had some of the best face reactions to what she was saying, because honestly, I have no idea what she's truly after, because she seemingly doesn't want to be immortal, but she's very interested in the concept of like disobeying death, and it's quite interesting and kind of goes hand in hand with their character. Like, how many times has she reattached her own limbs and things like that to save herself? So her experimentation angle and what she wants to do for research, and how Hoodlum, he's just trying to stay alive at this point. He's probably hoping he didn't catch any diseases from her because this girl's psycho, right? I mean, she's talking some craziness and he's just jaws on the floor, his brain's exploding, he just doesn't know if he's going to live to see another day. And that whole conversation was really fascinating to me, and that's honestly all I needed out of this episode for me to enjoy it. It was just so interesting to see two very polar opposite characters and just the conversations that they're able to have together. And then the whole executioner side, like, they're pretty much just saying, shit's screwed right now. It really is. The chief police officer here, he's wishing, like, why couldn't this happen when I wasn't chief? You know, I understand. I mean, he's just kind of playing his role. He has no real control at the end of the day, and he's just trying his best to go home and probably just drink his sorrows away. It's just there's so many things happening on top of the insanity, and that's why I really like the show so much. It just really turned into such a compelling narrative that has so many different moving parts, and you knew obviously they weren't going to find Brother this episode. Like, that's going to be like episode 11, episode 12. He just gets away where he's handcuffed and the plane's leaving, so it's going to be interesting to see how many more characters are going to reunite. We get that brief mention of if only Hacker was here, and of course Hacker isn't here. A lot of people are assuming the Hacker ended up dead in that zone where he left because apparently you shouldn't be able to survive outside of that train and whatnot. But I'm interested still, and I'm still putting my money that Hacker's going to pop back up towards the very, very end. But then again, that could just be wishful thinking. But still, it's very interesting to see how they're obviously killing these characters, and it would make total sense if the only one to survive is Swindler based on the opening and how it pretty much hints at everyone dying. But still, you never know. This is a series that's been full of twists and turns. Just because something seems to be going according to plan, like the opening's indicating how each character is going to die, it still doesn't mean that's how it's going to go. I mean, for all we know, we could enter the last episode, Swindler gets her head cut off, and the only one who survives is Hoodlum. Anything is possible in this show, and that's what I really like about it. Despite it having some predictability, like with its movie reference, you can get a general idea of where the episode's probably going to go. There's still a lot that you don't know what's going to happen, and that's what makes it so great. Visual directing was on point for not having too much action. There was just so many great filters and visual effects and just dramatic zoom-ins to make it feel hopeless. I mean, the demonic rage from someone like Cutthroat and how he switches to like, let me in, I'll be nice to you, to how she pulls out a lightsaber to cut him to pieces. It's just great to see what they're able to accomplish was a pretty basic idea at surface level and turn it into something that's honestly masterfully done. I'm generally curious though if Hoodlum's going to be the one to actually kill Doctor. I feel like Hoodlum's this type of character who you never really expected much of at the beginning, but based on what's happening now, I definitely think he has an interest in Doctor, but I think he's more fearful of her than anything and just knows like she's his best chance of survival. I wouldn't be surprised if Hoodlum has something to do with her death. That's just my bold prediction. I could be completely wrong. It just feels like, for whatever reason, I feel like that's going to be the character. The least suspected character is going to be the one to kill a seemingly immortal Doctor, and that's going to be interesting if he manages to do so. Like, the way to probably kill her is to cut off her head and cut off her limbs so she can't reattach them or something. But still, I mean, he did get a sneak attack on an executioner in her moment of weakness, so maybe there'll be some way to exploit Doctor's weakness that he can get up a one-up on her and actually end up killing her or something. But then again, what would serve the purpose of him killing her? Is he fearful of his own life? There's a lot of things that you just don't know why certain characters will or won't die. And that's going to be really fun to see what's going to happen. I mean, overall, this is just such a great series that just continues to make your mind race and make you feel confident in your predictions. And even if your predictions are slightly correct, there's usually something about the episode that's completely off from what you thought was going to happen. And so there's always this unpredictability element that I really enjoy. This show is incredible. It continues to be one of my most anticipated every single week. And it personally is my favorite show to watch on Thursdays. I just love it so much and I'm always excited for more. What did you think, and where do you think next week is going to go? Definitely let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.